Welcome to our Curious Amalgam, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Antitrust Law Section of the American Bar Association. Our Curious Amalgam explores the fascinating and increasingly overlapping world of competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law. Each week, we bring you leading global experts on the most compelling issues of the day. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to our Curious Amalgam. I'm Alicia Downey, and the title of today's episode is What Happens When Antitrust Lawyers Form a Bar Band Behind the Music of Side Hustle. Antitrust lawyers by day, rock stars by night. Today, we'll be talking to the members of the Antitrust Law Section's unofficial house band, Side Hustle, a cover band that has played at 2 spring meetings, once in 2019 and again in 2022, and also playing at various establishments in the general vicinity of Washington, D.C. As it happens, 5 out of the 6 members are prominent members of the antitrust law community with more than a century of combined experience working in government, private practice, and academia. In this episode, we'll learn what has kept the members of Side Hustle rocking on together for the past several years. But before we talk about that, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Subrata Bhattacharjee. Subrata, would you like to kick off the conversation?
Alicia, thanks so much. I have to say I'm really looking forward to this one as a music person and also an antitrust person and someone who's seen the band play at the spring meeting. I have a bunch of questions too, so happy to kick this off. I guess let me ask the band to tell us about themselves. Introduce yourselves if you could.
Great. Well, I'm Bruce Hoffman. I'll go first. I'm the bass player in the band. Currently a partner at Cleary Gottlieb. I've been in the band since it started. Mike and I were the founders, I guess, of the band, or the first people who started jamming together and ultimately created this thing. I've been playing bass and 6-string guitar since I was about 13 years old and have been in bands of various forms for most of my life. And I also, do some law sometimes when available to do it.
And Bruce, who is your musical role model or inspiration? I'd like everybody to tell us who that is when they do their introduction.
So I think every bass player from my generation would probably name like Geddy Lee, from Rush, of course. But I actually, over time, have listened a lot more to a wide range of bass players. And I would list people that I think are really influential, for me, at least the way I play, are Mike Mills and John Taylor, both 80s band players, but they had unique approaches to the instrument.
Great. And now let's hear from Mike Wheeldryer.
Thanks, guys. This is so much fun to be doing this. Mike Wheeldryer. I play guitar in the band. I was a founding member with Bruce. And my current role is, unfortunately, I'm not an attorney, but I live next door to a couple, and I'm in the defense industry. I've been playing for, similar to Bruce, since I was about 12 years old, and I was in the Navy for about 30 years, and I was fortunate that I was able to bring my guitar with me while deployed, and would just play a lot in the background and didn't do a lot of formal or organized playing until I got out of the Navy and met up with Bruce and we started going. And I have to say that my musical influences, it's rather offbeat, but I'm a big fan of the musical stylings of Jurata.
All righty. Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Rathbun. I'm a partner in the antitrust group at Latham and Watkins. I'm a singer in the band, and I've been in the band since 2019. I grew up doing a lot of musical theater and was in a cappella groups throughout college and law school, and so I was really excited to continue being able to play music with this great group. My musical role model or inspiration, I think all of the Broadway great divas, Audra McDonald, Linda Eder, all of those ladies who can really wail.
Awesome. Daniel?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Francis. I sing and I play keyboards. And I've been in Side Hustle since 2018 when I came to the FTC and Bruce twisted my arm and suddenly here we are 7 years later. My day job is as an antitrust professor at NYU. My musical life is kind of rooted in another world. I'm a classical musician by background. I used to be, in another life, orchestral and choral conductor and a sort of classical singer. And I picked up the piano basically to help rehearse a choir. And now here I am playing keyboards in a rock band with these much cooler humans. thinking about your question about a role model or an inspiration, I'm gonna sort of follow the direction that Mike nodded at. It's Bruce and Mike actually who inspired me to get performing back in my life after a long time, and I find that they inspire me to keep, even when things get busy, making time to come together and make music. So I'm gonna have Bruce and Mike as my rock music inspirations.
That I think makes total sense. Jay.
Thanks. My name is Jay Jurata. I am the drummer in the band. During the day, I am a partner at law firm of Dechert LLP. In my day job, I've had the privilege of representing technology companies like Microsoft for over 25 years in antitrust issues. Musically, I played until I finished college back in 1992, at which point I gave up playing completely. I picked it back up in 2019 and have been playing with the band ever since Bruce asked me to join them on a gig one time. And I guess as far as music inspiration goes, probably as a kid, it was Phil Collins. It started when he was at Genesis, and then of course he went into his solo career. Most drummers of my vintage probably listened to him and some others.
And last, but certainly not least, Tara Koslov. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. This is Tara, and I primarily do vocals in the band. I do also play electric violin, which is a relatively recent addition. I have the distinction of being the only person in the band who is now not employed. I recently retired after 28 and a half years of service at the Federal Trade Commission, where I was most recently the career deputy director in the Bureau of Competition. Now, apparently, side hustle is my main hustle because it's my only real job at the moment. As far as my musical background, I was apparently born singing, according to my parents. I've done a lot of musical theater, and I was a classically trained violin student, and I did a cappella and choral singing and all sorts of different things like that. So music has always really been a big part of my life, but I always dreamed of being in a rock band, and this has been a dream come true for me. It's been super fun. And I would say I thought a lot about who my inspiration is. I'm going to pick Sting. And the reason I'm picking Sting is that he has a lot of different styles. He is a phenomenal musician, both vocal and other and instruments. And I also love that he's really taken great care of himself and he's still singing strong as he's gotten older. And that is a goal for me as well.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you, everybody. The other thing we'd like to find out, of course, is the band's origin story. So let me take it to the founder, Bruce Hoffman. How did the band get started?
Yeah, so this is a story Mike and I can tell. We'll be kind of quick, though, but like many good things, it started with a Halloween party. Mike and I were neighbors. We hadn't done any music together. We were throwing a Halloween party at our house. Mike walked in, and when you walk into our house, on the right-hand side, we have a living room, which, of course, in today's world is totally superfluous because nobody ever uses a living room. So we had put all my musical instruments in there and other things. And Mike looked in and he said, "Hey, are you a guitar player?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I play guitar, but I'm really a bass player." Mike said, "You're a bass player? Well, I am a guitar player." And things kind of went on from there. Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Bruce, it was a lightning bolt moment. I couldn't believe that a person who I was getting along with and just getting to know lived across the street and had all these instruments. And we started talking. We had a common interest in music. We both were working, so we tried to see what we could do. And Bruce came over one afternoon and we just played in my basement and everything clicked. And it's the most natural musical feeling I had experienced since I was maybe in high school. So I was hooked right away at that point.
Oh, that's a great story. And how about the name of the band? When did you decide on that? Were there any interesting predecessor names?
Well, originally it was the Dad Band with Moms, right? In our first iteration, which was a charity show we did. We still have a great T-shirt from that. And then we spent some time trying to figure out the name. I had proposed a bunch of names that I thought were clever, which often happens to be literally nobody else thought made any sense at all. And then, Mike, I think it was either you or Sarah who came up with Side Hustle.
My wife, Sarah, mentioned, how's that side hustle going with Bruce? And I was like, oh, perfect. That it's going well. And you just made it better. So that's how we got that.
How would you describe the music that you play? Also, keeping in mind that you guys have such interesting and different backgrounds that you bring to the band.
Why don't I take that? This is Jay. I think it would be tough to say that there's only a single type of music that we play. Right now, I think our current set list is about 200 songs that span 7 different decades. I think the earliest song we play is Get Ready by the Temptations, which came out in 1966. And I think the most recent one is a bar song, Tipsy, that came out from Jabouzi just a year or two ago. So the way we got to playing so many songs is every single time we perform, Mike makes us play about 10 new songs that we've never played before. So, and I just think back at our last performance just a couple months ago, I think we added Ed Sheeran, Jimmy Buffett, Bananarama, some Deep Purple, and Tara got to rock a bit on Lady Gaga.
Mike actually always proposes that we do about 20 new songs. I propose that we do 1, and we end up at about 10.
So just to follow up on that, are there any suggestions that immediately are vetoed by the rest of the band? Like, what are the notable ones you guys have said?
I have vetoed We Built This City about 800 times and continue to veto it.
I have vetoed Celebration by Kool and the Gang because I have a long-standing hatred of that song that I cannot explain. I don't know why. I just hate the song.
The general rule has been, if it's offensive, it's probably not going to make the first cut. But other than the standing ones that Bruce and Tara mentioned, we will give every song a listen and a try. And if the band feels a good groove with it, we'll move forward. So every song gets a chance.
Yeah, and what I'll say about that also is one of the really fun things about the band and all the different folks in it is everybody's got different tastes, and people hear songs and propose them. And so, I'll play songs that if they come on, when I'm listening to music, I switch away from as fast as humanly possible. But then, they're fun to play, it turns out.
Well, that's a good segue to my next question, which is, why do you do it? What do you get out of performing music to a live audience that you're not getting out of your, let's face it, very demanding day jobs? Dan Francis, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. And I recognize that everyone would probably have their own answer to this question, but I think we'd all agree that the public performance is sort of our center of gravity. So for lots of us, as you heard, when people were introducing themselves, we had earlier chapters in our lives where making music was a sort of central or primary activity, but work and adult life can end up getting in the way, and you can lose track of some of these things that really bring the color and richness to your week. I didn't perform for about a decade. I know Jay played a lot of drums in college and then set it aside to focus on other things. So it's that commitment to public performance that kind of gives us a reason, and to some extent an obligation as well, to set aside whatever else is going on. We've all got busy schedules, and really make time, not just for music, but for coming together to make it. So nothing forces you to do that, like the prospect of having to play to a live audience in a couple weeks. There's more than that too. I think we all love the euphoria of public performance, no do-overs. You're constantly sort of skating on the edge of the blade. There's a distinct kind of magic that comes with that. There's something great about being able to share this part of our life with other people that we love, whether it's family or friends or colleagues. But just to echo what the folks were just talking about, it's a great reason to keep learning new material, particularly as we're lucky enough to have people who, don't just come see us once, but come back again and again and again. We want to keep it fresh and interesting for those folks. And what that means is I end up learning a bunch of stuff and coming into contact with music that otherwise I would never hear, never encounter, because the cool, wonderful folks in this group, share it first with us and then with our community through the band. So all of that, and then maybe the cherry on the top is it's our means of committing to spending time together. So Bruce and I have been hanging out in one way or another. I can't really believe this, but for almost 20 years now. And Tara and I overlapped at the FTC, but everyone else in this group has come into my life through the band. And they are an enormous blessing in my life. I think all of us kind of feel our way about this enterprise. And so the public performance pledge that we make gives us a reason to come together and share time and fellowship and make memories together. Mike surprised me at my wedding by playing our first dance. There's just a lot of intimacy and love in this group. Maybe the real music's the friends we make along the way. That's certainly been my experience.
Oh, that's very beautiful. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Could you possibly add to that?
I don't think so. I will say, though, just after COVID, especially coming back together as a band for the first time was just so impactful and so wonderful to just come together and make music again after being apart for so long. I just will never forget that. It was so special. And just, I think we all feel so fortunate to have everyone in this group come back together again and again to keep this going.
We had just really hit our groove when COVID hit. We were actually planning on a gig soon after everything shut down, and we were so sad that gig went away, and we just couldn't wait till we had another one.
Yeah, but remember, Tara, we did play Memorial Day. That in the beginning of COVID, we got together in Mike's backyard, and everyone was social distancing, and it was a little neighborhood community performance. That was so much fun.
This was in 2020?
Yes, 2020.
You guys are very, very clear, and it is inspiring about what makes the group special to each of you as friends and as performers. Let me turn it on its head a bit. When you are planning the shows and figuring out where to play, what is it about the band you think that is special for the audience, for the folks who want to come and see you? And maybe I'll ask Mike to talk about that.
Thank you. That is a fantastic question. And I think Jay alluded to this to begin with. The 7 decades of material that we are bringing is totally tailored to appeal to the audience that we're playing for. So there is definitely going to be something for everyone when they attend a Side Hustle show. Additionally, as Bruce mentioned, and as you can tell from our membership, we have the ability to have at least 3 vocalists, 4 vocalists sometimes. So the harmonies really distinguish the sound that we bring. But probably the most distinguishing feature would be our business model. And that's that we're completely free. We do not charge.
Hard to argue that.
Yeah, and we are not looking for compensation other than maybe a courtesy beverage, but we are there to bring happiness to the people and to enjoy the experience with them. And I'll offer it, that has sometimes backfired. People or establishments would not take us seriously when we would offer that we are not looking for compensation. So we've had to overcome that as a hurdle and establish ourselves as a legitimate music group and not some sort of gimmick. So
how do you do that? When they say, are you guys for real? What do you do?
We have fortunately been able to leverage social media and provide some videographic and audio examples of what we play. But a lot of times we will have a connection with the establishment and they will give us a chance and we assure them that we have fans show up and then we deliver on that. And then it kind of snowballs from there.
The last gig we played, I think we ended up with like a 45-minute wait to get into the restaurant we were playing, which was heavily driven by people that came to see us. And quite the owner of the restaurant told me it was really shocking, but great how many people came to see us. The compensation thing came about in part because when we started this band and through its history, a lot of us have worked for the military or the government with the band. And so, figuring out some way to get paid was way more hassle than it was worth for what we were doing. We thought, let's just play for fun and entertainment and joy.
Now, recognizing that most of you appear to be, we'll call it over 40, if that's correct. What is the process of choosing songs for your set list? And how do you bridge, say, all the musical generation gaps? You say you've got songs from 7 different decades, but, I have to say somewhere around my 30s, I started hearing band names and singer names and thought to myself, I have no idea who that is. And I'm not sure I even want to know. So how do you keep an open mind and how do you absorb sort of new trends in music?
I'll take this one. This is Anna. So I think we have a very open process for suggesting new songs. We're on a group chat, and people will be on their way to a deposition or in the airport or driving along and say, hey, I just heard this song. We should do this. We would sound great on this. Or, Tara, you would sound great singing this. Daniel, you sound great on this. So everybody sort of puts all the song suggestions into a big pot, and then we try them out. I think it helps that Bruce and Mike and others have kids who are college age teenagers, so have maybe a wider variety than some of us with younger kids. Mike has this great whiteboard in the basement where we practice with all sorts of index cards, magnets that get moved around. It's like a beautiful mind. All this, the thought and attention that goes to what should the transitions be, what songs are in the same key, what can we make, move seamlessly through a set. And as long as it gets people on their feet and dancing and excited to come watch us and listen to more, then it's in. And it's just a very fluid process. There are some favorites that stay on from time to time, like Love Shack. But I think other than that, we're just constantly trying to change and add new things.
Tara, where do you find, I mean this collectively, how do you guys find the time and the places to rehearse?
The place is easy. We rehearse in Mike's basement. Mike has quite an elaborate setup down there, and his family has been very gracious and generous with their time and their eardrums. And we convene down there, and it's great. It's our haven, and it's a really wonderful place to rehearse. The times are the big challenge. We are all super busy. We all have kids or are about to have kids. And so juggling all the family stuff has always been a challenge. We do a lot of doodle polls and a lot of texts and just trying to figure out who's available when. Typically, and I think Daniel alluded to this, once we know we have a performance date, and we often set those months in advance based on our crazy schedules, then we work backwards from there and try and figure out, okay, what's the minimum amount of rehearsal that we need to get in? And then we just start negotiating. It's pretty rare that we have a rehearsal with all of us. We do a lot of, we'll call them sectionals. That makes it sound a little more formal, but we have plenty of rehearsals where we don't have everybody. We've had a lot of gigs where we are not all together in the same room until the night before the gig. And that's the first time that all of us are actually rehearsing together. But one of my favorite things about this group of tremendous musicians is that everybody learns their parts and takes it very seriously. And so we know that even if people have to travel cross country for a deposition at the last minute or have a sick kid or something is going on, when they get to rehearsal, they're going to know what they need to know. And somehow it all works out.
I think we had one show, if I remember right, where Jay flew in on a red eye, had one rehearsal, played the show, and then flew out, back across the country like the next morning.
With opening statements on Monday morning.
Are there any particular shows that stand out as ones you really, really had to prepare for that you took a lot of effort?
I think playing the spring meeting for us is such a joy. There's something about knowing that not only are you going to have hundreds of people in front of you, but also it's a community in which you're invested, a lot of friends, a lot of really long time close colleagues in the antitrust world. So recognizing that every performance is special in its own way. I think the spring meetings are always special for us. Something else that will always have a special place in my heart, when Mike retired from active service in the Navy, we played his retirement gig, and the feeling of community and celebration and joy and love in that room was pretty remarkable. So that for me is an all-time highlight.
I agree with that one, for sure.
Me too.
Tara, what's something that has surprised you or the other members about the live music business? I mean, anyone who reads anything about the industry knows it's been undergoing massive challenges. Those for whom it is not a side hustle, have really had to deal with massive change. Has any of that affected you, or what have you learned or thought was surprising?
Having a musical theater and a stage background, I always understood how much work goes into the behind the scenes, back of house, getting everything ready for the performance. That became particularly acute, I think, when we see what goes into setting up one of our gigs. You don't get a big sound with this many musicians without a lot of equipment. And it's surprised me that some of the venues don't understand how much time we need to actually set all this stuff up. We are not just going to be able to show up with a couple of mics and a little amp and some instruments. We need several hours to load in and sound check and all of that. And some venues have been more accommodating of that than others. We had one venue in particular that comes to mind, and I'm sure you're all going to know which one I'm talking about, where they really just didn't give us enough time. And we had people who had come to see us who left because we started so late and they didn't know if we were ever going to make it onto the stage. So that's one thing that surprised me. And also the idea that we do really bring an audience. And I would think that more venues would understand that and would be willing to give us a shot. But they don't know what they're getting, but we can drive an audience. And I'm hoping that maybe some more venues will give us a chance because we can live up to that promise.
And are you available to play weddings?
It's funny that you should ask that. At one of our gigs about a year and a half ago, some people came up to us and asked us if we would play a retirement party if we ever took paid gigs. And we did have some back and forth with them. And the big challenge for us was trying to figure out what would we even charge, because it was a place we would have had to travel to. And so we were willing to not make money, but we didn't want to lose money. And so we had to quote a price that would cover some hotel and transportation and all of that. And we never heard from them after that. So I guess the answer is maybe we would if the price were right.
Bruce, let me ask you as one of the founders. This is the appropriate time for you to ask this. What are the band's future plans?
Keep on playing. Look, I think all of us really love this. It's a tremendous part of our lives. We have a gig lined up on September 5th at Claire and Don's Beach Shack in Falls Church. We're playing the spring meeting this spring, which we're really excited about. Those are 2 gigs this year. We're hoping to add in a few more. So keep on playing, play as much as we can within the confines of our schedules and our family lives and everything else. I'd say musically, one thing that we're doing is, we keep experimenting with more genres, more types of music, new artists, different things, so that's something that we really love doing and are going to continue doing. I think we're also looking at branching out a bit with our instruments. So, Daniel and I are both big fans of heavy metal. And so we've been kicking around some lineups where I would play second guitar and Daniel would play bass. So we could do that sort of 2 guitar driving kind of sound and maybe play like some Judas Priest or something like that. So lots of things like that. Tara's looking horrified, but
no, I am not.
How many of you are looking forward to the sequel of Spinal Tap that's coming out in a few weeks?
I would just, Mike.
Yeah,
I would offer that it's important for us to keep the focus of the band what it was to begin with, and that is a love of playing music with people you love being with. And it would be very easy to get seduced into trying to join the club circuit or prioritize, we've got to play this gig and do this type of show. And that would be the number one thing that would destroy us. And I am extremely protective of that. And if a person can't make it, then we figure out a way to make it work. And it's about keeping this unit, this family together and playing. And as Daniel said, it's one of the most inspiring and unreal situations to have been in that has just been positive 100% of the time.
Well, I think you guys are all going to be an inspiration to the people who listen to this. It is very important to find community and excitement outside of the 4 walls of one's office, and it sounds like you guys have been able to do that. For those who want to learn more about the band, they do have a website. I believe it is sidehustletunes.com, all one word. So please go check it out. I hope you guys will be adding more videos to it as we go on. And there's a bit of a song list as well, very long song list that I'm sure will be added to. Before we let you all go, however, we're going to play a little game we play with all of our guests, and that is the Curious Hat.
And now it's time for the Curious Hat.
The rules of the game are extremely simple. Subrata is going to pull a random surprise music-related question out of the virtual hat, and each of you in turn will give us your spontaneous off-the-cuff answer, and much hilarity will ensue. So, Subrata, take it away.
Yeah, I gotta ask this one. Like we've been tiptoeing around it for the whole session, but it's very simple. For each of you, favorite artist, favorite band, why? Bruce, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I actually find that incredibly hard to answer because I'll give you a different answer at a different time of the day and different day of the week. But right now, particularly because we're coming up on Labor Day, I'm going to go with Jimmy Buffett. As a Floridian, I've been listening to Jimmy Buffett for my whole life, and I just love his music. I love the breadth and the joy of his shows, and actually listening to recordings of live shows that I can view inspire me when I think about playing live to have that kind of rapport with the audience. So that's the answer I give today. Ask me tomorrow, I'll tell you something different.
I think that's fair. Anna.
I'm just going to go with the Beatles. You know, anytime the Beatles are playing, I will listen to them. They've got so much range. You can find a good Beatles song for any mood you're in. Who doesn't love the Beatles?
Daniel.
Why don't I pick Black Sabbath? They changed the world. They were my introduction, decades too late, to the genre of heavy metal. They created a new way to think about what rock and blues music could be together. And just having lost Ozzy, it seems a good moment to be grateful for what they gave us.
All right. Jay?
So I'm going to cop out like Bruce did. It's really tough to say, who your favorite artist and favorite band is, and it changes all the time. I'd say the artist I've been listening the most to recently is actually Chuck Mangione, who unfortunately we lost. But, as a drummer and listening to his music, his drummer was James Beardley Jr. They just played this incredible mixture of jazz and funk and fusion. It was just something, and they didn't really have a lot of songs where they actually sang. It was just all music. Despite that, he had a couple different hits that were in the top 10, at his heyday in the late 70s. That's probably just the pure musical genius of a band, of an artist like that, Chuck Mangione. It's going to be a long time until someone like him comes along again.
It's also a drummer's answer, so that's pretty good. Tara.
I was dreading that this might be the question because I cannot possibly answer this question. I've grown up with really eclectic musical tastes, including, classical and jazz. My parents were both professional musicians at various times in their lives. All right, so I'm going to cop out in a different way, and I'm going to offer a new group that I've been listening to a lot that I think is worth a listen, and so maybe some other people would be interested in them. So the group is named Truesdale, and I've seen them perform live. What I love about them is it's three women who do a lot of really close harmony. Their lyrics are insightful and real and sometimes a little poetic. Their relationship with their instrumentalists is fabulous. There's clearly a lot of love and mutual respect on the stage. And I just think they're really fun and talented.
Well, thanks everybody for those inspiring answers. And I hope everyone will check out the Side Hustle website, check out a live performance if you're in the DC area. Thank you again to all of the members, and thank you to Subrata for being a wonderful co-host as always. Tune in to next week's Our Curious Amalgam.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Our Curious Amalgam, a competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law podcast. It is produced and shared around the globe by ABA's Antitrust Law Section. The opinions expressed by the participants in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent their employer or other organizations. If you like what you heard or would like to become a member of the American Bar Association, please check out what the Antitrust Section has to offer at ambar.org/antitrust. You can learn more about our podcast at ourcuriousamalgam.com. If you have comments, suggestions, or podcast ideas, please reach out to us at podcast@ourcuriousamalgam.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.